Hi, I'm Sean Lowther, and I'll be going over how to quit a job professionally. Okay, so why does quitting professionally matter? When you're a CPA, especially working in tax, how to leave a job is honestly just as important as how you perform in a job while you're there. A lot of people assume that quitting is simple, just give in your notice and move on. But in accounting, it's way more connected than that. The industry is small, and people are constantly moving between firms. Managers become partners, coworkers switch companies, and sometimes even clients follow the accounts that they trust. Because of this, your reputation doesn't just stay at one firm, it follows you throughout your entire career. For example, a senior or manager you work for today could be interviewing you again in just a few years for a completely different firm. If you leave unprofessionally, like quitting suddenly during busy season, not finishing your work, or talking negatively about the firm, it can stick with you. People remember that kind of behavior, especially in the professional field like accounting. On the other hand, if you leave professionally, people will remember that too. They remember that you handled things the right way, stayed respectful, and supported your team until the end. So overall, quitting professionally isn't just about being polite. It's about protecting your long-term reputation and keeping as many opportunities open as possible. So how do you know when it's time to leave a job in tax? One of the biggest signs is limited growth. For example, if you've been doing the same type of tax return for multiple years, like basic or individual returns of simple small business filings, then you're not going to get exposure to more complex work that can slow down your development as a CPA. Another major sign is burnout. Busy season is expected, but if you're constantly working long hours, feeling stressed year round, and it's affecting your health or personal life, that's a serious problem. A lot of people in public accounting deal with this, especially early in their careers. You might also notice that the firm's culture doesn't match with what you want. Maybe there's too much pressure, not enough support, or unrealistic expectations from your management. Sometimes it could be a positive reason. You could get a better opportunity, like moving into a role with more flexibility, higher pay, or maybe just more interesting work. For example, someone might leave an accounting firm to work in an industry where their hours are more predictable. The key is to take a step back and think about your long-term goals, not just how you feel in one stressful week during busy season. It's also important to design a plan before resigning. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is quitting without a plan, and that can be especially risky in accounting. Most CPAs try to secure another job before resigning. That gives you financial stability and makes the transition a lot less stressful. It also puts you in a stronger position when making decisions because you're not feeling as rushed. You should also review your employment agreement. Some firms include clauses about notice periods or restrictions on contacting clients after you leave. That's important in tax, where client relationships are a big part of the job. Timing is another huge factor. Leaving right in the middle of busy season, like March or early April, can put a lot of pressure on your team. Even if your reasons for leaving are valid, still might affect how people view your professionalism. It's also a good idea to start organizing your work ahead of time. For example, making sure your files are clearly labeled, your notes are updated, and your projects are in good shape. Think of it like this. You're setting up the next person for success, not failure. Overall, you want your exit to feel planned, controlled, and professional, not rushed or emotional. Let's get more into the resignation letter. When it comes to writing your resignation letter, it should be simple but still professional and well thought out. You don't need to include a long explanation. Just clearly state that you're resigning and include your final working date. This makes everything clear and avoids confusion. It's also important to express appreciation. Even if your experience wasn't perfect, you probably gained something. It could be technical skills, experience with clients, or just exposure to different types of tax work. In accounting, professionalism is very important, and this letter becomes part of your record. One thing you want to avoid is including any negative comments. Even if you had frustrations, this is not the place to bring it up. For example, you don't want to mention a long hours or issues with management in your resignation letter. Instead, you might want to keep it positive and professional. Think of it as a reflection of your character and professionalism as a CPA. Now let's talk about how you communicate your decision. You do not want to be like this guy in this comic here who screams it in front of everybody. How you communicate in your resignation is just as important as the letter itself. In public accounting, there's a clear structure, so you should always tell your direct supervisor first, usually a manager or partner. It's best to do this in a private meeting, either in person or over video. Sending an email without conversation can come across as unprofessional or even disrespectful. During that conversation, it's important to stay calm and confident. You don't need to explain every detail about why you're leaving. Just give a general reason if needed, and keep it professional. It's also important not to criticize the firm, even if you've had negative experiences. That can create tension and damage the relationship. For example, instead of saying that you're leaving because of the stress, your management issues, you could say that you're pursuing a new opportunity that aligns better with your goals. The goal is to leave on good terms and maintain a professional relationship. Let's talk about giving proper notice. For CPAs, giving proper notice is especially important because of the deadlines and client responsibilities. 2 weeks is the standard, but in tax, you might want to consider giving more notice. If you're working on major client engagements, or if your role is more senior, um, during your notice period, you should continue working at the same level as before. Your responsibilities don't just go away because you're leaving. Some people mentally check out after resigning, but that can leave a negative impression. For example, if deadlines are missed or work quality drops, that's how your team will remember you. If you think about it like this, your final few weeks are going to be your lasting impression. So, if you stay focused, meet deadlines, and help your team, you will leave a strong and positive reputation behind. Now let's talk about negotiations and handling counteroffers. When you resign from a public firm, there's a good chance that you're going to receive counteroffers. This could be a salary increase, bonus, or even a promotion. Firms invest a lot of time and money in their employees, so they often try to keep them. While this can be tempting, it's important to think carefully before you accept. Ask yourself, why is it you wanted to leave in the first place? Was it the hours, the stress, lack of growth, or something else? If those issues aren't fixed, a higher salary might not improve your situation at all. For example, if you're already burnt out, um, more money probably won't solve that problem long term. A lot of people who accept counteroffers will end up leaving within a year anyway. It's true that you may receive a higher bonus or salary increase in this year, but in the years following it, you will likely receive a much smaller salary increase than your coworkers, and it'll be remembered by your managers, who will definitely hold us a grudge in the future. So, as a CPA, it's important to focus on your long-term career path, and not just your short-term benefits. Now, let's talk about the transitioning of responsibilities. In tax roles, transitioning your responsibilities is one of the most important parts of leaving professionally. You're usually handed multiple clients, returns, and deadlines, so it's critical to make sure that everything is clearly documented. This includes the status of the tax returns, the key client information, and any important information or risks. Um, you may also need to walk another staff member through your work to help train them. For example, if you're working on a complex business client, you're going to want the next person to have figure out everything, or not to have to figure out everything from scratch. A smooth transition prevents mistakes, missed deadlines, or client frustration. It also shows that you're responsible and committed, even as you're leaving. Talk about maintaining those relationships. One of the most valuable things that you can do when leaving a job is to maintain your relationships. Before you leave, take the time to thank your coworkers, managers, and mentors. These are the people who help develop your skills and grow professionally throughout your time at this firm. You should also connect with them on LinkedIn, since networking is extremely important in accounting. Even if your experience wasn't perfect, leaving on good terms can keep doors open. For example, a future manager could recommend you for a future role or connect with you for new opportunities. In tax, a strong relationship can even lead to a client referral later in your career. So the connections that you maintain when leaving can be just as important as the experiences that you gain. Now let's go into some key takeaways. Just to wrap everything up, quitting a job professionally as a CPA is about thinking long-term and being intentional. You want to plan your exit carefully, communicate clearly, and stay professional throughout your entire process. In tax specifically, your work directly impacts clients and deadlines, so leading responsibly is extremely important. Maintaining relationships and protecting your reputation should always be a top priority. At the end of the day, how you leave your job can have a lasting impact on your career, sometimes even more than how you performed while you were there. So, if you handle your exit the right way, you set yourself up for long-term success in the accounting profession. Thank you very much.